Well, that's the Prime Minister unveiling three of the big urban-centric infrastructure projects that we've been speaking of for some time. But this was the real vision statement from the Prime Minister. Meanwhile, the markets have not done very much. In fact, we were playing out all the infrastructure-led stocks out there. No major movement except for a clutch of them, and we will take you through some of that. The markets themselves flat, down about 5%. But what has he announced? Three big projects around urban housing, around smart cities, and the entire urban renewal program that the government has been speaking about. But there were few specifics, a lot of vision statements harking back to NDA 1 and the big unveiling of the Golden Quadrilateral, which was the big infrastructure push by NDA. In the last couple of instances, we've had the government talk about Make in India, Digital India, but this is the first real urban infrastructure-focused program that he has launched. A lot of this, remember, was mentioned during the election campaign and through the year. So this is really coming together of all of that. Let's introduce you to our guests who are standing by, who sat through that speech. R.S. Ramasubramaniam, co-chairman of Feedback Infrastructure, and Irfan Raza, and Sachin Chaudhary, I beg your pardon, business head of mortgages at Indiabulls Housing. Thank you both for joining us.
Sachin, let me bring you in here, and I guess the point remains the same across the board, that while of course it's a huge step and a huge outlay that we're talking about, implementation is really going to be the key going forward. And you know, as many mentioned earlier as well, we still didn't hear too much about that in some of the speeches that took place earlier this morning. What are you anticipating in terms of how this is going to roll out on ground?
What we see is that there has been a talk around smart cities and putting the investment into the low-cost housing, wherein the cities are swelling and there's no quality supply. So this is a very welcome move, and it is straight coming from the Prime Minister. It was a part of his speech when he was sworn in, and the government is working in the same direction. So that's, and which is seeing the day of the light today, wherein the ball is set rolling, and the governments, builders, local bodies, state governments, everybody has got a role to play, and it has been decentralized to a level that it is being thought through, and the funds are being allocated, and we are making the first step towards it in a real big sense. From housing perspective, what we see that today the quality of housing is not available in the big cities. Though we have got builders and there are the huge availability of housing, but those are happening on the upper income segment side. And if we see the population, we have got around 65 million population which is in living in the slums or the dwelling units which are not inhabitable. When we, as a housing finance company, we approach the market, we clearly see that there is a clear supply side constraint. And supply side constraints are because the market is not regulated, market is not being supported, and the government are not very clear on the policies on how to develop those slums and provide a housing for the masses which is more convenient, which is having a clear titles, which have got a clear infrastructure, and all the facilities which are required for a better living and a rehabilitation. So this is a move which is happening in the right direction, and with regulations coming in, wherein these developments are coming with some subsidies and controls, and this is going to open up lands which is lying locked with the state governments or the central governments, or the in a PPP model where we see that builders are ready to participate, but they were not getting the enough incentives to support the lower segment of the economy. So this, in combination with the government, with the builders, and decentralization of authorities and allocation of funds, is going to move in the right direction. And we see that today the gap what we are seeing is around 2 million houses is a shortfall as per the census of 2011. So this is increasing by around 40 to 50 lakhs on year-on-year basis. By 2030, the estimate is that there will be a shortage of around 11 crore houses. So if we are starting today, I think the move is in the right direction. This is going to benefit the weaker sections, benefit the economy as such, and especially the cities will become more habitable.
Okay. Sachin, very quickly, I'll get Mr. Razak into this conversation because the Prime Minister even alluded to the disconnect between property prices and what was happening. But Sachin, the more important factor was the interest rate subvention on affordable housing. Are you seeing that very quickly as a big opportunity, and are you going to start seeing a lot of action around it, or will it be determined by the supply side coming in before you actually see a pickup over there? Very quickly.
Yeah. Today, all the housing finance companies and banks find it very constraining that they want to lend in this segment, but there's no quality supply.
Sure.
So definitely this will be followed up by the supply side, wherein the legal and technicals are clear. Today, unorganized market do the financing in these segments because there are no quality assets available, and being public companies, housing finance companies and bank find themselves limiting on that factor, lending the money in a sector where they're not clear on the clear mortgages. So this is a right move wherein we see a growth opportunity over the period of next 5 to 10 years, which is going to impact at least 2 to 3% more disbursements or customer base increasing in the mortgage market in the next 5 years. So it's a good opportunity for all of us.
Swachh Bharat is going to play an important role here, how cities are adopting that, which is a great news for any
there
citizen.
There are 3 other components which I have...
Sure. Let me get
Swachh
Sachin
Bharat,
in on this. Sachin, we're running out of time, but let me get Sachin in on this. Sachin, normally what happens when announcement is made is that property prices start going up. If you're saying that, 500 cities are going to be developed, a new push on infrastructure, 100 perhaps satellite cities are going to be developed into smart cities. What's your sense about that? Do you see a lot of demand pickup happening in at least the suburbs and satellite towns in tier 2, tier 3 cities?
Obviously, when we see such announcements happening, there's a lot of optimism that happens, and especially in the segment which is deprived of a quality housing and within their capacity of purchasing power or within the geographical limits of the city. Over the last 2 years, we have seen that the migration has already happened, wherein the commercial projects have been launched in lines of the affordable side. Some government intervention has happened in some states like Haryana, in Punjab, and we are seeing those kind of properties are being developed. Definitely, the pricing is one issue which remains, and the prices goes up. But what we are facing today is that supply is happening in a segment where the demand has run out. And the demand is there on the weaker segment, which is an EWS or LIG. And the supply here is very limited, or whatever supply is available is happening at the outskirts of the city or far-fetched places, and with lack of infrastructure on transportation side or connectivity side, there the pricing is becoming a challenge because purely on the commercial grounds, the developers and the builders are not able to offer the rates which can be sought after by the segment. So there is clearly some gap, but still some supply is already happening, and the pricing is not an issue as of date. Pricing will not be an issue in this segment. It will always be a quality housing where the titles are clear, where the properties are clear, and technically these are the properties which can be funded by the banks or the housing finance companies. There is a gap standing on that. The movement that has happened on Awas Yojana